as well from my side. My name is Uwe Korus. I'm from CARE International with the CARE Emergency Group in Geneva. And I have the honor to present you some of our experiences with remote management. Remote management, it's a little bit like being here on stage today. I have not much control of what I'm seeing in front of me. I certainly don't have a lot of control of what you're seeing, as we saw yesterday. I also didn't have much control over the audience that I'm delivering my speech to. So I have to base my behavior up here on many assumptions. I can't even, necessarily see all your faces. So even getting feedback from you is not very easy. So that's similar to the situation that we are in when we are in a remote management and remote monitoring situation, like in Syria or in Somalia, from which I share some of the experience that I present to you today. So, CARE has developed a number of tools and mechanisms that should help us to bridge some of the gaps that we experience when we do monitoring in a remote setting. Those gaps are about information that we need to make decisions about the selection of beneficiaries. It's about generating the information and the evidence during and after distributions. All those information and evidence gaps contribute to what we say, is a huge evidence and accountability deficit that we have. So how do we try to bridge that? If we continue, I think we see, I didn't have control over that. I thought we have the presentation without animation. Now we have the one with animation. Anyway, so we have developed in CARE and with others as well a framework for collaborative management and monitoring, which includes informal as well as formal mechanisms. The informal are mainly based on, using networks, community-based organizations, etc. Also, some of the social crowdsourcing mechanisms that we have through internet, social networks, etc. But we complement that with mainly three formal mechanisms. One is the implementing partners, obviously, in Syria or in Somalia that provide us reporting. Third party is, one way to go. It's probably one of the most efficient, but not necessarily cost-efficient mechanisms. And then we have peer-to-peer. We're trying to promote that particular mechanisms more and more because we believe that's the mechanism that is, the most collaborative, the most inclusive, and probably also cost-effective if peer organizations that are in the same situation, but also the peers, the implementing partner peers in Syria or in Somalia can actually come together and do monitoring together of the situation. Because obviously for the population, it's obviously very often not clear who are the actors behind the assistance that they receive. So for them, seeing CARE or Oxfam or an implementing partner doesn't say a lot. So we obviously have some experience with this practice so far. What is probably the most important ingredient in this is why we want to promote collaborative management and leadership. As we heard yesterday, we also need a number of common standards and tools and tasks. So we have developed 3 levels of tools and tasks that we think give the sufficient guidance for remote monitoring. One is the mandatory mechanisms and tools, if we can continue. Then the essential mechanisms and, you know, the nice to have, but obviously, as we said also yesterday, these kind of mechanisms need to be adapted and tailor-made to the situation on the ground. The next slide shows you just a few of those tools and mechanisms that we're testing now in Syria, also in other places. Next slide gives you an idea a little bit about the realities of our work in remote management, and the most important ingredient is trust. I trust you that I have a few more seconds to go over time, but how we generate that trust is obviously, you know, important to think about. Security, the security of the communities, the local partners that we work with. Next, also the integrity of the data, the confidentiality of the information that we receive. The timeliness of the analysis. If we get information, it's important that we analyze and provide feedback on that fairly quickly. And the most important is that whatever we generate in terms of our analysis and feedback is actually relevant to the implementing partner. This is a quote from emergency obstetric care staff in Syria that I met 2 weeks ago, and he had received information about, you know, practices, emergency obstetric care practices for almost 2 years, and he didn't know who was actually generating that information, and he was very grateful when finally he met CARE and some others in Turkey, where we were able to discuss his experience, etc. So that's important for us to have this kind of relevance. I hope this gives you a little bit of idea that if you are in a situation related to remote management, now you can sit in your little bubbles and still find a response to the questions, now what?